Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us on our social media platforms. I'm Elliot Rodriguez.
And I'm Rudabeh Shabazi, and we're joined, of course, by Jim DeFede, master of Florida politics. And you've been watching all of these results pour in, the numbers changing. We saw Debbie Wasserman Schultz just a few minutes ago speaking, and I think she's just left the stage, but we saw her just a little while ago, and a big night for her.
So this race is one of those ones where you don't know what quite to make of it, because it was a three-person race. She was challenged on the right by Joseph Kaufman as the Republican, and on the left by Tim Canova, who ran as an independent. If you remember, Canova challenged her 2 years earlier. So you didn't know how this was going to play out. Turns out, Canova was a non-factor in this race, getting just 5% of the vote. Wasserman Schultz moved easily to a victory. She goes back to Congress.
All right, you have some of the other races, including Congressional District. Yeah, Congressional District 27, Donna Shalala declared a winner.
Sure. So Donna Shalala wins this race. This is the first race that we have where the Democrats have turned a red seat blue. Again, the big storyline that we're going to be following across the country is whether or not the Democrats will get the 23 seats that they need to take control of the House. This was one of those seats. And I will tell you, there were moments where folks were afraid that Donna Shalala and her campaign were going to blow this. And then now it turned out she won. She won fairly handily. You know, this was tighter than some people thought, but she turned it around. There's an historic nature to this as well. Not only is this the first domino for Democrats hoping to take back the House, but let's take a step back for a second and remember, this was the seat occupied by Ileana Ros-Lehtinen, the first Cuban-American, first Hispanic woman to ever serve in the U.S. House of Representatives, is now in the hands of Donna Shalala. This is marking sort of a changing of the guard in terms of Dade County, when you had a district that was two-thirds Hispanic, heavily Cuban-American, sending a non-Cuban Democrat, essentially, to Congress. So it's going to be interesting to see how that.
And by the way, you sat there with Ileana Ros-Lehtinen at her favorite little Cuban coffee place in South Miami,
Casa Cuba.
Casa Cuba, when she filled out her ballot and
voted
got emotional about it.
Yeah, she voted for Maria Elvira Salazar, but you got the sense that she wasn't pushing hard for her. She complimented Donna Shalala. She said they were both good candidates, that the district was in good hands. You know, Donna Shalala will go into the Congress. By the time she takes the oath, she'll be 78 years old. We'll see how long she intends to serve. I realize I'm being mean. I should give her a chance to enjoy her victory before I start asking when she's going to step down and retire. But she goes into it as a 78-year-old freshman Democrat into the U.S. House of Representatives.
All right, Jim, and District 26, that was Carlos Curbelo, and it's a very close one versus Debbie Mercosal-Powell. This
one continues to be tight. You know, we now just have a difference of 2,372 votes out of approximately, what, 216,000 votes cast. You know, this is another district that, you know, if Debbie Mercosal-Powell holds on, and I'm not calling this race, nobody's calling this race yet, there's still votes out there to be cast. But again, going back to that theme with Ileana Ros-Lehtinen, you know, here's a Cuban-American member of Congress in Carlos Curbelo, who will be replaced, if she holds on, by an Ecuadorian immigrant to this country. Again, it talks about the changing nature of Miami-Dade County, where Cubans once ruled were politically dominant here. It's the newer arrivals from Ecuador, from El Salvador, from Colombia, from Venezuela, from Nicaragua. They are emerging as a political power, and if Mercosal-Powell holds on, she's part of that story.
Somebody could also argue that it's also people concerned about their health care. Healthcare was a big issue in that race. Of course, Carlos Curbelo voted against the Affordable Care Act, and Debbie Mercosal-Powell, that's her story. She says that she got into this race because of that issue.
She did, and this is, again, when we start talking about a wave, and again, I'm not a big fan of a blue wave and all that sort of narrative that's been going on, but I know that race, District 26, a lot of people around the country are looking at that race. If that does turn blue this time around, that is a very good indication that the Democrats are on their way to taking back the House, picking up this seat. They also picked up a seat in Virginia. You know, Barbara Comstock, longtime Republican, she lost tonight. So those dominoes are starting to fall for Democrats. Carlos Curbelo will be attributed to having lost because caught up in the moment, that Democratic wave, as we were just sort of saying. But again, you could also go back to the argument that it had to do with health care, guns, and other issues.
And we talk a lot about this blue wave, and are these red seats going to be flipped? Right now we're looking at live pictures from Tallahassee.
Yeah, this is the Gillum campaign party at near Florida, Florida A&M University, I believe, and they had quite an event there last night with Diddy. I'm not even sure what his name is these days.
I think it's just Diddy now.
Diddy. And they've got a lot of rain there in Tallahassee as well. But Jim, you've got the latest numbers on this, and it's not looking good for Andrew Gillum.
Well, again, it's still fairly close. And Ron DeSantis is up by about 84,000 votes. You know, we've probably got about, I'm guessing, I'm not sure how many more votes there are out there, but right now Ron DeSantis is ahead. Again, the last two Florida governor's races were decided by 60,000 votes or less. It does appear that we are almost back into that range of 84,000 votes ahead. Obviously, if Andrew Gillum had won, he would have been the first African-American governor of the state. Ron DeSantis, with the help of the president, I guarantee you that if Ron DeSantis wins, the president will take all the credit in the world for it.
Exactly. I was going to ask you, before we went to those live pictures, we talk a lot about these seats possibly being a blue wave and seats going from red to blue. What are the broader implications? What does this mean for people's everyday lives if indeed this is to happen, if the House flips blue?
Oh, if the House, well, first off, what you're going to see is if the Democrats take control of the House, you're going to see a lot of hearings suddenly, that you're going to see a lot of subpoenas issued. You're going to see all the committee chairmanships turn from Republicans leading it to Democrats leading it. So for instance, you know, you're going to see a new chairman of the Intelligence Committee. Instead of David Nunes, it's going to be a Democrat leading that committee. So you could see a lot of hearings in which a lot of the problems within the Trump administration, some of the scandals, will take center stage. Now, the danger of that for Democrats is that if they overplay their hand, if they take back the House, then suddenly they become sort of a party that goes rogue on its own right. That could play into Donald Trump's hands going into 2020. But for now, let's sort of wait and see how it turns out. But Democrats are hoping to take back the House, and it looks like they may.
A more optimistic person might say that now maybe we'll see some bipartisanship with Democrats. So you're looking at me like I'm crazy.
No, Elliot.
With the Democrats controlling the House, maybe now this will be an incentive for the two parties to work better together than we've seen?
We'll have to see. You know, obviously, I'm not sure where the Senate is going to come down. You know, the Republicans are likely to hold on to the Senate, may even pick up a seat. So you'll still have the president be able to nominate all the judges he wants on the federal bench. If another Supreme Court opening comes up, same sort of thing there. So I think you'll still see a lot of divisions, but the partisan nature of the House of Representatives, I don't think is going to go away.
And his legislative agenda could be stalled if the Democrats take back the House.
Absolutely. But he'll run on that and say, this is why we need, a Republican House going into 2020.
All right, let's talk about the Senate race then.
Talk about a race that's close. So, again, almost evenly divided, 68,000 votes between Rick Scott and Bill Nelson. This is one that is just incredibly, incredibly tight. Almost, let's see, where are we at there with that one? 7.5 million votes cast, according to my quick math. We're deadlocked right now. A lot of votes, not a lot of votes, but some votes still out there. We'll have to sort of see what comes in. Yeah. One of the things we can't tell, and it's always one of these things that traditionally dumps last, is Broward County. For some reason, Broward County always sort of comes in at the very end. I don't know if they've entered into yet. If I'm Gillum, if I'm Bill Nelson, I'm hoping Broward County still has votes out there.
Okay, well, we have a lot of updates coming up on CBS 4 News. We thank you for joining us on our social media platforms. We want to let you know that we have updates tonight right on CBS 4 News at 8:55, 9:25, 9:55, and 10:55, and of course we have a full update on CBS 4 News at 11. We need a lot of coffee and caffeine.
We have lots of coffee. And actually want to
Yeah.
touch base with you one more time, Jim, about the soccer stadium.
Sure. So let's say the soccer stadium looks like it's on its way to passing. I'll also tell you just a couple other quick ones real quickly. It looks like, so there's the soccer stadium numbers. They're looking really good. We don't need to call up these numbers for these other things, but I do want to sort of note, it looks like dog racing will come to an end in the state of Florida in 2020. It looks like the restoration of civil rights seems on its way to passing. And Broward County will have a penny sales tax increase, so that's a good news for Broward folks for increased transportation. And day teachers will be getting a salary increase.
Good news for teachers. Thank you, Jim.
We'll be back at 11.